I am doing scenery work on my model railroad, plus I have a really cool wiring trick for handling all of those tiny wires through your model railroad. Hey everybody, it's Jimmy from the DIY Digital, and it's time for another layout update.
This video is brought to you with support from my patrons on Patreon.
The main goal of this past month has been to get the base level of scenery on the side of the layout where the mountains are, where the town is, and really get that in place so that I can really begin to dig into the more intense yard and industrial section of the layout. So that's what I've been working on. I'm really happy with what I've got done. I didn't get everything done, but let's take a look at the progress that I have made. The first thing that needed to be done was fix a massive gap between my foam layers and my fascia panel. And the way I did this was I just used some cardboard strips and some plaster of Paris to even that section out. And pretty much straightforward here. I laid down the plaster of Paris, I double layered it, and then once it had dried, I came back and painted the entire thing the same color as the rest of my layout. Once that was done, I was really able to get to work. The first thing I did was glue down the rest of the road that I had done in the past, and then I began applying my Scenic base, which, as you guys know if you watched the previous one, this is just Woodland Scenic's blended turf earth blend. I also put down some more road bed that I could finally put in, and I also sprinkle a little bit of Woodland Scenic's dark green fine turf in as well. I also did the gravel layering for the road, just like I've done in the past. I'm going to link those videos at the end of this video. Next up, it was time to start working on the mountain, which was the big task for this month and working on the layout. And the one thing I needed to do was I attached some additional rocks that I had made, and I needed to paint them and get them dry brushed and weathered up. And instead of doing the airbrush like I've done in the past, I used a foam brush and just dabbed the paint in. This is a great way to do it. If you don't have an airbrush, you want to make sure that you use a foam brush because that's going to be the easiest way to get all that paint in. And you're really going to want to do dabbing versus any sort of brush strokes or anything like that, because that'll look unnatural. And then you'll just do the dry brushing technique to get everything looking like rocks. And then the name of the game is just putting down more Scenic base and more Scenic base and more Scenic base. This is a very repetitive process, so I'm not going to show too much of it. I also had time to build a couple of these house kits and give them some quick paint that I found on eBay. These were extremely easy to build, and I will link them in the description below. I'm using them as kind of like a company house, mill house type situation. Now last week you guys saw me detail up these cheap signals you can get off Amazon or eBay, and this week I need to put a couple of them on my layout as I'm doing scenery, which means that I need to do some wiring. And one way that I wire up things with all these really tiny wires is I use Thermostat wire, and this stuff is really great for this kind of stuff because it has several wires bundled into a single wire that you can feed through and then strip the other end and connect it where you need to. So it takes all of the feeding and the pulling your wires and breaking your solder. It takes all of that out of it. All you need to do is seal them up with some heat shrink tubing, and there's multiple different types of this. As a matter of fact, the double-headed signals that need 7 different wires, I was able to find 7-stranded Thermostat wire so that you can connect all of those wires up and feed them through as one single wire. So Thermostat wire is absolutely awesome for doing this kind of stuff. The Thermostat wire I'm using is very easy to feed through the holes that I have drilled for these signals, and that's because it's all solid wire in there and it's able to push through fairly easy if you get it hooked up on a snag or something in there, and it just goes straight through. Now I left a bunch of extra on the end so that I can run the wires almost anywhere that I'd really need to, but this is the most critical part right here where you are feeding in the signal itself. I actually did 3 signals in total for this section. Now I'm not wiring up, I'm going to be doing Arduinos for these, but I still have to write the custom code for running these things, and I'm going to do a video on that. But these signals, I got two 2-aspect signals and 1 double 3-aspect signal. I blend these things in with a little bit of ballast so that they match the track right around them, along with some IPA and some Scenic cement. The mountain here is the most labor and resource intensive section that I have done so far on this layout. It took several hours over the course of several days, and it took about a quart of glue to get all of this done. And basically what I'm doing here is like, this is the area at the base where I'm going to be putting some hero trees eventually, but I need to put the Scenic base right there. And then once that was done, I went into puffball tree making mode, and I made so many. I should have kept count of how many puffball trees I made, because this is by far the most puffball trees I've made, and I'm not even close to being done making puffball trees. I still have the whole other section that has a nice little ridge line that has the puffball trees on it, but this was just so many puffball trees. By the end of it, I was sick of making puffball trees, and I was like, I'm done making these for a while. But it was just, I really am happy with the way that the Scenic base turned out. I still obviously have a lot of other trees, hero trees, and more detailed trees to add, but I've got a great base to start off with. I then put my focus on the valley where the track went under itself so that I could put some of the blending materials like the woodland Scenic's bushes and all that kind of stuff. And then I also went around covering up some of the bare painted spots as well, and just doing some general scenic work to them. I'll do some more detail work later on. And then more puffball trees. Now these will probably end up being heavily augmented with super trees and other details like that, because they don't just need to be a straight up tree canopy. But more puffball trees, it's the name of the game. Now that was a lot of work and a lot of stuff to cover pretty fast, so I can't think of a better way to show you guys this than to run some trains through the scenery that I was just working on. Plus I can show you guys what I picked up over the Christmas season right here, which is these 2 sets of 5 Kato well cars, and I absolutely love them. Check it out. If you want to see more of the things that I talked about in this video, like the rocks and the dry brushing technique or the signals or things like that, you can check out those videos at the very end of this video. I do want to say a big thank you to all of my patrons. They're listed right here. You can become a patron for as little as $1 a month. A lot of cool stuff going on over there. Thank you guys so much for watching. Check out those videos. Until next time, I'm Jimmy from the DIY Digital. Stay safe, be kind, and happy railroading. This is like literally right off screen right here. So where I live right now, it is going like nice warm weather, cold weather, nice warm weather, cold weather, nice warm weather. And it is like making my nose just like hate me, and I can barely talk. Like, you don't know how close you came to just having me hold up signs so that you had to read it. Oh, don't derail, don't derail. Ah, okay.